Hey everybody, welcome back to Electric Cafe. It's been a couple days. Today I got a couple music reviews. I'm doing three music reviews. The first one today is on Front 242's 1991 album Tragedy For You. This was an important album for me. I was 15 years old when this album came out. There was this, I wish I could remember now if anybody you guys remember, there was this cable access TV program out of Minnesota, or or maybe it was Milwaukee to be exact. They did they showed a lot of industrial and alternative videos. You could. I remember I found MC 900 Foot Jesus from there. Um, Stuff like that. But I found Front 242 from that. I first got into Front 242 in 1991 when I was 15. And of course, then right away I got all their back catalog because I really love this album. And then another memorable moment in 1992, I saw Paul Oakenfold DJ, and he played uh, shoot, not Headhunter, but Welcome to Paradise. He played that track, and yeah, I mean it was just quite and then I went, then I was really into Front 242, and then I came out with Off and what was the other album? Upheaval. They came out those albums in '93, and I was just a huge fan. Of course, then it was kind of a dry period for a few years, but then I saw him in concert, and I think it was in 2000, which was awesome. I saw him in 2005, and then I saw him in like 2017 or 18, and yeah, I just always been a big Front 242 fan, and Um, it's cool doing a review on this album. Kind of made me kind of revisit it in full. I played it probably recently in full, maybe a few months ago. It hadn't been a long time since I heard it, but I don't often play a full album these days. Very very much. It's hard for me to get through an album when you have so much music. But if I'm doing something, of course, I'll play something in the background. But you know, Front 242 isn't necessarily my one of my choices to play in the background. It's music that demands your attention, demands it's great club music. It's I love the energy. I love the band. I love their live performances, their artwork, what they stand for. I mean, everything about them. Just a lot of people consider them kind of the originators of EBM music, which is kind of electro body music, which is kind of a silly term for industrial music that sort of has a groove, right? Um, so I've just gotten everything from them. There isn't too much I have. I have DVDs. I have a poster on my wall. I got, you know what I mean. I got some of their cassettes. Just a lot of special memories with Front 242, and I've always been a big fan. And it'll be interesting when I review some of these albums because not all the albums, when you think of like official version, I have my Front 24 CDs over here, so I'm looking over there, but you have official version front by front, and of course geography, and it's hard to rate those as albums, but that's kind of what they are in some ways. It's kind of a period of them. They didn't really release albums per se, like a normal band did. It was more singles and and then they put the stuff, fairly, singles, and then the stuff that was unlimited, not really released, then they kind of gathered it up and put it with those singles on other albums, on other sort of compilations like those. So, um, yeah, I mean, I just, what can I say about this album? Just kind of get into reviewing the songs here. Um, the first song, Sacrifice. I think it's a really good opener. It's got a cool beat. I'm gonna say that a lot. Everything's cool. Everything's cool. There's so much coolness going on in this album. I'll be saying cool a lot. Cool beat, cool melody, cool. I love the way he sings it, how it goes into the moody part and the effects on the singing. It's really smooth. It's a nice opener. It kind of sets the mood. I got it right in between very good and excellent, like 3.5 stars. It's a really strong song. I really like it. I think it's kind of one of the more underrated songs on the album. It kind of sets the mood for the rest of the album, and that in some respect kind of gives me an extra good feeling about it. You know, when you have a good opener, you know, it sets the tone for the album, but it also, you know, when you start it and you play it, you're like, oh, I'm going to go through an album that I really like. So if it's a good album and it's a good opener, it really kind of makes it even better because you know it's coming with the rest of the album, right? So that certainly does this with Sacrifice. Rhythm of Time. So here's the figure I show the single Rhythm of Time album. I do need to get the Gripped by Fear single. It's a very rare promo copy that was only released in Belgium. It didn't come out in the States or Germany or Canada or UK or anyway. It's just a promo 12 inch in Belgium. And but I really need to get it. But it's kind of expensive record. It's probably between like $30 and $50. It's rare to see one on sale online. It's kind of a rare record. Not super rare, but yeah, this has Rhythm of Time, the Anti G mix, and then also the Victor the Cleaner mix. Solid remixes on here. Love the artwork on here. I mean, they really nailed it. I mean, this is kind of a big point of the album. Just the entire packaging, and if you know Front 242, they have like a sort of like a military. I wouldn't say like a militant. They're not necessarily against. I don't know necessarily the background behind doing it, but I guess they kind of feel like their music sounds like it's kind of like it's aggressive and it goes well with sort of like an aggressiveness, like a almost I don't know. It's hard to put into words, but you know they have like they all have like you know big parachutes on, like you know combat boots, and they all kind of. I mean, it looks militant, but they're not like in the militant where they're like you know like pro government or pro war or anything like that. It's kind of like they're in the EBM army or you know just industrial music, but they're about the people and you know and they're against the system. And I wouldn't say they're overly political in any ways, but they're really about helping the people be stronger and you know they got I think they got their hearts and their minds in the right place if you know what I mean when it comes to the imagery and what they stand for and everything has an aggressiveness about it. You know, this is a good example, like with I think this is from the video for it of Rhythm of Time, so it kind of has like he's like experiencing a lot of G forces, and when you see their videos, there's like sort of like not necessarily like human testing, but it's like you know like space flight testing and military testing, and everything's very about the war machine and the war, but it's not overly to the point where it's like it becomes too much, and it's just kind of about like it just goes really well with the futurism and the machine like uh, sound of the band, but also it's not fully machine like because it's not rigid. It's more less industrial and more EBM, so it's more dancey and more clubby, and so it's just like the perfect balance of industrial and EBM, and that's why they're you know considered you know one of the best, if not the best EBM artist. Um, so that's the so Rhythm of Time. Sorry, that's the first single, second song on the album here. Great groove, great rhythm. The lyrics are really strong. Um, I really like the eerie melody and the good sound effects. The outro and the fade out is really cool. I got it really close to 4 stars. It's just I kind of went back and forth, and I was like, "Is this an excellent song?" And I'm really right close, right up to it. I got 3 3/4 songs stars, but right on the very high side of very good. It's I mean it's really close to being an excellent song. Then I got Moldavia, which is actually it was kind of considered one of the weaker songs when I in the first maybe few years of the album that I had it, after seeing them play it live and it's kind of grown into their live set, and it's part of the K2 movie, it was in the soundtrack, and it's a little bit more techno, and I think in a lot of ways it's kind of grown on me to where I like it a lot more. It's a very powerful song. It sounds a little bit like Neuro bashing on the second side, um, for the good and the bad. Not too much bad, but it just kind of sounds a little bit like it. But I think it's a really strong song. I got 3.5 stars. Um, really have nothing bad to say about it. In fact, there's really nothing bad to say about this album. Trigger 2, Anatomy of a Shot, was the fourth song. It's kind of a little funky. It's kind of more of an instrumental song. There's so many great instrumental songs throughout Front 242's career. Like, it's in some ways Never Stop, even though this is Never Stop a lot, and Welcome to Paradise, and there's just so many good instrumental songs in their career. This is another one. The bass line at the end is really good. I put it as I remarked it as silly good. It's just silly good. It's just like a woo 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 woo. Just has such a great groove. I just put another great 242 instrumental. I got 3 stars. Right, very good. Um, Gripped by Fear. Again, I need to get the single. I love the opening. I love the singing, the way the beat evolves. Love the melody, the atmosphere, the groove, and the end melody. It's my it's tied. Looks like it's tied for my favorite song on the album. 4 stars. And then Tragedy for You. Um, Here's also the single and the maxi single. The remixes aren't too great. Just kind of extended versions. And it's strange because there's like there's a 7-inch mix, there's a 12-inch mix, there's a Vox mix, there's an extended Vox mix, it's like there's 6 different versions, and none of them are really different. They're kind of just more like dub versions of it, but they kind of focused on the bass line, and they're not really like, there's, it's really they're kind of mixes from the original song in a way. I don't really remember really anything added except for maybe like one part in one of the mixes that I like a little bit better is anything unusual on it that's different from the original track. They're very much just like 7-inch versions and 12-inch versions, but they're really not that much different. Um, one's a Vox 7-inch remix, one's a 12-inch, so one has the vocal, the other one has the vocal, but then there's the other one that sort of doesn't have the vocal, and then it has extended vocal. I mean, the extended version with no vocal, so it's really not that different, but kind of goes along with the imagery. And here's kind of the important thing with you kind of got the line of sights right, and the military. That was kind of what it was about, especially this album. Like the the imagery and the artwork on this album, just the design. They started doing the 242 like along the side and some. Yeah, I think here it did it also. Actually, my poster kind of has that too, but just the imagery and stuff like that. They were. I think maybe about a year and a half later, they were on the first Lollapalooza tour promoting this album. But I think it was before Upheaval came out that they did that tour, because it was like 92, 93, and Upheaval and Off came out in 93. So I think it was before that. So if not, I mean, if so, then that'd have been a great time to see them. Unfortunately, I didn't see that tour, but man, I would love to have seen that tour, knowing how great they are live and how much fun they are live. I would have loved to have seen them live for this tour. Um, but Tragedy for You, I got 4 stars too. Just it's kind of an anthem for the group. The way it's sung is really cool. The beat is great. It kind of sounds haunted in the backing vocals, so he's kind of like talking, and then the people in the background are like, kind of like agreeing with him, sort of like repeating what he says, and it kind of sounds like they're like following what he says. It's kind of haunting, kind of kind of spooky, but it's like, super cool. Super cool. Then track 7. I think this is one of the more underrated tracks on the album. The Untold. I'm sorry, not this song. I was thinking of a different one. This one, The Untold, is nice groove. The way it's sung is also really cool. Cool beat. Oh, this. I'm sorry, I was reading this one. This one sounds haunted with the backing vocals. Tragedy for You. Bass line is sick. The way he sings it, great chorus, great melody. 4 stars. The Untold, nice groove. Um, it's really, I think it's really kind of an underrated song on the album. I got 3 3/4 songs, 3 3/4 stars. So it's tied for third or fourth best. So I have to choose between that one and Rhythm of Time for third and fourth place on the album. Such an awesome album. And then Neurobashing comes. It's driving, goes great with the album. Sounds really aggressive, powerful. It's kind of another sort of instrumental on there for the most part. It's I got 3.5 stars. So the third 3.5 stars track I have. So 2 4 stars, 2 3 and 4 stars, and 3 3.5 stars. So just a really strong album. The album kind of last 2 tracks, not necessarily the strongest one, but I think Lemotive 136. It's kind of one of the more darker ones. Cool bass line and beat. I feel like it's one of the more underrated songs on the album, but I do have it 3 stars. So up to this point, the least liked album, but it's still underrated because I don't think a lot of people think of that album and think of that song, and probably um, a lot of times people don't get to the end of this album because they kind of maybe they don't uh, fully play the last couple songs as much. And that might be because the Soul Manager, the last track, is I feel like is the weakest song on the album. It's still a strong beat. The singing might be a little cheesy, average chords, but the melody is decent. I got 2.5 stars though. It's still right in the between good and very good. So definitely still a very worthy song to have on here. Um, wow, good album. So many good songs when I think of the album. So many good songs. The overall sound is excellent. Possibly their most cohesive album. I would think so for sure. Goes great with the imagery and the videos and the sound. It sounds very militant again, but it's not militant. Everything's there for being militant, but it's dancey. Like how militant can you be if you're dancing? you know, the production, the artwork's cool. It's just everything is great about it. Um, I think the length of the time of the album, 10 minutes, probably pushing like maybe 44 minutes or so, is a great time for a dance record, especially for EBM. Not too long, not too short. Wow, it's just an awesome album with a lot of history for me. And I have when I do my notes, I do a good and bad, and that was kind of all the good about it. The overall, when I say bad, I said, is there anything that's bad about this album? I think the only maybe opportunity I could see with this album is maybe like an atmospheric intro or atmospheric ending or something. Maybe something in the middle. That'd be good. A nice, kind of instrumental without a beat, like some kind of ambient type thing to like kind of be an intro or an outro or kind of an interlude into something, just kind of break the norm because there's just so many good tracks on here. Maybe that could be a small opportunity. But overall, when I look at the tracks, so I got 2 at 4 stars, 7 tracks out of 10 at 3 stars and above. 3 stars, excuse me. 9 tracks above 7. 9 tracks in overall out of 10 above very good, above 3 stars. And again, 1 track at 2.5 stars. So the overall ranking of the album just really strong. I got it comes up to the total amount of stars is 34.5 stars. So divided by 10, that's 3.45 stars per song. That's right in between very good and excellent. So when I think about the overall album, I definitely got this in the excellent for the album. You know, can it get into the '90s? Is it an all-time classic? Boy, it's really close. Um, I don't think it's quite right there. You know, maybe one more strong, maybe one more really strong album, really strong song in there. And the funny thing, the reason why this is because cohesively, I really like the album, and all the songs are really good. But like if I do the top 10 Front 242 songs, I'm not sure very many of these would get into the top 10. I mean, when you think of the overall great songs of Front 242, you got Headhunter, you got um, No Shuffle, Human. Um, I really like Circling Overland. Welcome to Paradise is probably in there. Master Hit, of course. Quite Unusual is definitely in there. Um, No Crash. There's a couple other ones I'm missing around that time um, as well. Commando Mix. I mean, so it's crazy that like this album is that good, and it doesn't necessarily get into the excellent because probably if I did my top 15 just to push it even further, I may have two tracks in the top 15 from this one album. That's how good Front 242 was for a decade, and that's how good their singles were. That then they come to an album and I have it close to being an all time classic, and it doesn't feature very many of their best songs. That's how the earlier, and I'm sure a lot of Front 24 fans will agree with me that their early stuff is a little bit more funky, raw, more dancey, better grooves. But if you kind of speed everything up a little bit and and inject a little techno in it and a little bit of sort of maybe a stronger direction, like everything really kind of in some ways kind of came together on this album. But it is a little bit faster. It is a little bit more aggressive than their earlier stuff. The earlier stuff is a little bit more raw, and I wouldn't say I wouldn't say groovy or funky, but it's got a little bit looser grooves in it, and especially when you think of like No Crash and Shuffle and stuff like that. There's some really strong like grooves in that a little bit slower BPM and things like that, and if you're into the sounds and the instruments that did certain sounds, those are going to be more vintage analog sounding than even this. But this doesn't sound digital in any respect. The mastering might be a little bit of an opportunity. It could be a little bit more dynamic, but it sounds very futuristic and it sounds kind of digital in a way, but it's not. But it sounds very everything sounds very tight. It just doesn't have the kind of the rawness that sometimes you look for in certain analog grooves. And Front 242 is kind of a good example of that. But yeah, I mean, geez, I got the overall rating of the album 85 out of 100. So right in between excellent and a classic. It's really right there. Probably one of my favorite industrial albums of all time. And I'm wearing my Skinny Puppy shirt. Um, or is an EBM album. Maybe my favorite EBM album all time. But yeah, yeah. So that's my review of Tyranny For You from 1991 from 242. I'm curious, what would you rate this album, and what's your favorite three tracks on this album? My favorite three tracks would be Gripped by Fear, Tragedy For You, and probably Rhythm of Time. Probably my top three favorite songs for this album. All right, so thanks so much for watching. I appreciate that. Have a good one.